Check Complete, a referee podcast, is an educational resource for referees by referees, designed to connect and develop soccer officials of all ages and skill levels to better serve the game both on and off the field. We're excited to have FIFA Assistant Referee and NYSOA Senior Director of Education, Cory Rockwell, with us today. Cory, thanks so much for taking time to be with us. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So before we get started into a couple different things, one big one being NYSOA's recent publishing of the educational plan and where that's going. We're excited to hear a little bit more about that from you. We just want to get kind of in the way of introduction to hear a little bit more about you. And so just where are you from? What do you do? I mean, outside of soccer, however much information you're willing to volunteer, we are happy to listen to it.
Yeah, no problem. Sometimes the other stuff elicits some questions or, I didn't know you did that or this. So I'm more than happy to start with that. So I am in now my 32nd year of being a referee. So I'm definitely one of the old guys. I don't think it's as long as Fotis Bazakos and some of the others, but it's definitely or Brian Cohen, being a little more local to Kansas there. So, but yeah, 32nd year as a referee. I've been on the FIFA list. My goodness, since 2007. So this is the year 16 on the list. Jair and I came on together, and I think right now we're on the U.S. longevity record for a number of years on the FIFA list. So been there quite some time. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. Spent most of my life there. Went to school at Georgia Tech. And then I work for Clorox, and they got bought by Dial soap. And because of that transition, I made my way out to Arizona, moved due to work, and I've been in Arizona for the past 17 years now. So my previous job, I was with between Clorox, Dial, and others for 18 years, and it was tough. I was the head of internal audit for North and South America. And I was going to, which sounds great, traveling all over the world. Some places were amazing, like South Korea. I went to Germany. I went to South Africa, all for 21 days straight. But then I also went to some places like Kazakhstan, Belarus, which you don't want to spend 28 days in the middle of winter in Belarus. That's for sure. So that got very tough. I decided I need a job a little closer to here. So for the past 3 years, I've been the head of internal audit for PF Chang's at their corporate office here in Scottsdale. So that's what I do outside of for work. And then I have 3 boys, age 13, 11, and 7, that keep me busy and pretty much prevent me from having any hobbies outside of soccer and work. Is just getting home as quickly as I can to them to see their soccer games or their hip hop dance classes, or help them with homework or whatever the case may be.
Wow, that is interesting. Very cool. Well, I'll have to talk offline about this PF Chang's connection.
All right, deal. If you have trouble with any of their restaurants near you, just let me know, and I'll make some phone calls.
So far, so good with the one on the plaza in Kansas City, but I'll keep
good.
Yes.
Happy to hear.
Yeah. Very, very good. Awesome. Well, yeah, that helps. It's everybody's a person, right? And yeah. So we talked a little bit about that before we started recording, about just how it's easy to dehumanize those that wear the hold the flag, carry the whistle, all that kind of stuff. But everybody's got a story. Everybody's got a family. Everybody's got something that keeps them ticking, and so it's cool.
Absolutely
sharing that with us. But so let's just jump in on the NYSOA side of things. Get started, and then we'll move into a little bit more about your career and some of our fan questions. So on the NYSOA side of things, for those that are NYSOA officials, National Intercollegiate Soccer Officials Association, for those who are not working at that level, first of all, I hope you aspire to work at that level. It's a lot of fun to do that. So that's a great place to continue to work in the game. But let's talk a little about that. For those that are part of NYSOA, you guys sent out that information. So we've already seen that come through, and we're beginning to start planning. But kind of where was that born from? What's the plan, and how can we access that? A lot of information, so I'll just let you run with that.
Yeah, no, Gordy, I'll address your first point first, which is, just aspiring to get into NYSOA. We ran duels back in Georgia, and he's like, you'd be a good candidate to start doing college soccer. You were solid in this game, and you never know who you're going to work with or who's watching you. And that's how I got into NYSOA originally, decades ago. But now, speaking about the webinars coming up, we wanted to give the members something. Well, let me back up a little bit. We asked our members first first, what do you think about webinars? And the response was overwhelmingly positive. It's a member's most favorite form, just like this podcast of activity. It's convenient. It's you don't have to spend money on airfare or travel or anything like that. It's a very efficient way to deliver the content. We were a little afraid of webinar exhaustion, and maybe there was a little of that during the pandemic, but I think people are still really enjoying those. So we wanted to give the NISO members something during the off season. So we have 4 planned, 1 in April, 2 in May, and 1 in June, I believe is the schedule. And the one we're going to start with in April is physical fitness and preparation for the fitness test and staying in shape in the off season. So Jonathan Weiner, who owns a gym in Florida, he's going to give us some training tips there. And I think it's going to be a good one, about 45 minutes in length. We'll do more educational in May, and then we're going to have our first in-person clinic in June since the pandemic. We're teaming up with the Texas chapter there, and we're going to look to have a session June. I think it's June 19th. Well, I know that exact date is out there, but it'll be an all-day clinic, and then we're going to get a group of tickets to the FC Dallas game that night, where we can all watch the game together. And I guess maybe that looks at the historical piece is, back in December, we had our first ever women's summit with Carrie Seitz, who's arguably one of the greatest women's referees in the world, as our speaker. We flew her in from FIFA headquarters in Zurich, and she came and she spoke to us, which was unbelievable. And but the night before, we had gone to the Final Four games, and people said just being able to sit there and talk informally to me, to Amanda Ross, Lance, and some of the others there was just so fantastic to be able to chat informally during a game. And why they do that? Why did she give advantage there? Why did he raise the flag there? Why is he positioning? So we figured the FC Dallas game would be a good way to do that and look at some pro referees there. So, and staying on the Women's Summit, we will be repeating that this year. I can go ahead and announce that. You're getting a sneak preview here on this podcast. So that will be in Cary, North Carolina, the weekend of, I think it's December 2nd through 4th, which also coincides with the Women's College Cup again. It's not just for women referees, it's for all genders. And I think the guys that attended this past December got a ton out of it, because quality referee instruction is good no matter who it comes from. And but once again, we're going to search the world, and I have a few candidates in mind. They will most likely be another international top name coming in December. So stay tuned for that.
Wow, that's awesome. I did see some posts from the Women's Summit, and it was just glowing responses and reactions from it. That's fantastic.
Yeah, really nice, really nice.
We appreciate, and I mentioned this off air, I'm going to just say it while we're recording here. We do really appreciate, especially in Kansas City, and I know with other NISO officials I've talked to, all the work that you guys have put into this. A lot of that is just, it comes from really, you can tell from your guys' hearts, just the people that you are. And so we're grateful for your leadership in that, and excited to see where NISOA continues to go. I think it's been amazing to see. As I mentioned, I've been in about 5 or 6 years. To see it continue to grow is really, really exciting. So we'll keep those on our calendar. We will put, for those that are engaging with us on YouTube here, we will put those comments, we'll put those links in the description of the video. That way it's accessible for you. But if you're not already engaging on the portal, please do that. Check with your local chapter leadership. If you're an ISO official and you don't know what I'm talking about, well, send me a DM or something. We can get you. But check with your local chapter leadership. Make sure you're engaging on the portal. There's a lot of really good stuff that's being shared through that. Mark Cahan's been doing a lot of video education through it. That has been fantastic. And so if you're not engaging with the portal, please do that.
Definitely.
So is there anything else on the NISOA side that, like, if you don't share this with us before we switch to this, you're not gonna be able to sleep tonight? Like, is there anything else?
No, that's okay. One big thing is this is a rules change here for the NCAA. So that's why we kind of paused the webinars at June. Then we're going to wait and see kind of what comes from the NCAA. And then we'll have in-season webinars once again this year coming up. So they're not going to end in June. This is more just what we want to do during the off season to keep members engaged and keep the education and fitness going before that first kick of a fall season comes around in early August.
It's awesome. Yeah, we did talk a little bit about the proposed changes, and we're hoping, I think we've been in conversation, and hopefully we'll have Rich Grady come join us to talk about those when those get.
Oh, that'd be great. Great. Yeah, he'd be a great guest from all aspects, not just NCAA, but his refereeing career and everything else.
Yeah, would love to connect with him. So, so let's just transition now. Appreciate all that you've talked about with NISO. We're excited for what's coming. Let's transition now to, we've had some audience questions to just talk about your career and the path that you've been on. Before we get into those questions, you've already alluded to it, but maybe talk to us a little about your path. I love hearing those stories, and a lot of our listeners have really appreciated that and can connect with your story in different ways. So just give us maybe just the very Reader's Digest version of how you started and where you've gotten to today.
Yeah, Reader's Digest. I think I knew I wanted to be a referee early. I would skip, I won't say skip classes, but I had to pay for my own college. So the way I did that was through refereeing. And yes, sometimes I'd have to skip a class or two or turn in homework late because I was doing 2 varsity high school games the night before and gone on the field for 5 or 6 hours. So I made the nationals in '98, and then, hey, things don't always go perfect. I thought I was going to have my national badge a year after, and things, life happened, work happened, etc. So recalibrated, and then I was at a tournament in 2004, I believe it is, amateur nationals, and I made it there as a center referee. And I won't retell the whole story because you heard it already, Gordy, at the coaches convention. But long story short, even though I made it as a referee, I decided in that tournament that I wanted to be an assistant referee. There were a few ARs there. My skill set was more toward that. I love being the co-pilot. I love making the female or the male in the center look great. To me, it's a team atmosphere. So if I can do my part to make us all look good, I get just as much satisfaction out of that as blowing the whistle in the center. So yeah, I was there during that term. I chose to be an AR, and thankfully I went to a few more academies, and so I think my skill set was good to be an AR. And people have seen me sprint. I had a pretty good sprinting ability back 20 years ago, and I still have a little bit of a kick there. But yeah, and that was another key benefit, is that I can stay with that second to last defender as well, which always helped a lot. So since then, and then just went from there, and 346 MLS games later, I'm still at it, and I still get a thrill out of blowing the whistle. I still blow the whistle on Sundays. I still blow the whistle during college season. And for me, it's so important as an AR, and that's some of the top advice I give, is that, hey, once you choose that quote unquote AR track, don't stop blowing the whistle. You still need to know what good support is. You still need to know what you like to get from ARs and what you don't like from ARs. You still need to know what a foul is in the center and to feel what it's like to be within the touchline. So I think that's been one of the greatest assets for me is that I've kept blowing the whistle even with the FIFA AR badge.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a great advice. I mean, you can never stop being a referee in the middle. You got to really understand what the game is all about, even when you're on the line. So I think that's
exactly.
Great advice.
Exactly. Thank you.
So this question comes to us from Brendan, one of our former co-hosts. Yes. He knows his place now. No. Anyway, so how does your referee crew approach games where there is a language barrier between referees and players and technical staff?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've done a lot of Spanish-speaking games, obviously, throughout the years, and I've definitely picked up a nice little tool bag of key phrases: no more, no más, take it easy, tranquilo, aquí, right here. When you tell them where to take the throw in here, aquí, back up. So I have a few, 4 to 6 phrases that really help when I am refereeing teams that only know Spanish. But even outside that, I know when Jair, working with him, I've worked with him more than any other referee. And on the international stage, even though he's fluent in Spanish and his parents were both born in Mexico, he doesn't speak Spanish on the international stage. He sticks to English. And it's so that he doesn't get in prolonged conversations on the field. He speaks in English in very short phrases, and he wants to do the communication with his whistle, with his pointing, and with his facial expressions. That's not to say he doesn't want to talk to players. You can still communicate a lot through a smile, through an angry look, etc. But you know, the international language, common language, is the whistle and the point. And while a few key phrases definitely help, you know, that's you know, it's a facial expressions that can really do a lot, and that transcends both from, like you said, Gordy, the college game, where there are more and more, you know, Latin players, all the way up through the international stage as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Which is applicable, like you said there, to anyone that has a different face. And I think that's great. We think, you know, internationally, oh, we got to wait to get to, no, you got to navigate cultures. And that's what makes soccer so beautiful, is it brings together all of these cultures in such an interesting way. And so I think that's super helpful for anybody at any point in their career as they continue to navigate, you know, working with teams and clubs that are from different languages or cultures or backgrounds, things like that.
Right.
So, yeah.
And my one World Cup game was, you know, when I was on the field, was Belgium versus Tunisia. And, you know, Jair and I went out there not knowing either one of those languages, Belgian or Tunisian. So, but you look, and the way Jair communicated, his facial expression, you know, he had lighthearted moments with the players. And one of my favorite moments is when he had his key VAR check. You know, first call of the game was a penalty kick right on the line. He points his ear and he says, they said excellent decision. And, you know, even though the players don't know English, he pointed to his ear and smiled, and they knew he got the call right, and there was no point in arguing anymore. So there you have it. Another, you know, that's just an example of, you know, two languages we didn't know, but yet we were able to communicate just in little ways with the players.
Well, speaking of the World Cup.
Yeah, so we actually had another question come in from Kyle from Boston. And
oh, very good.
Some more information in regards to your training for the World Cup. What did that look like? How long did it last? Where was it? So yeah, go ahead and take that and run with it.
Yeah, no problem. So the training for the World Cup really started, you know, they were looking at us, how we're doing in our domestic leagues and how we're doing in the CONCACAF games. And then once we were formally part of the World Cup process, our first training seminar was a week long in Dubai, I think it was, and we would take fitness tests, and they would start to get us prepared. This was the first World Cup with VAR, and every day we were doing 45 minutes of VAR drills. So we would rotate. So they would hire local players every day, and they would just do close offside decisions, the classic kick the ball, defender running up, attacker going forward, and you'd have to make the decision and go quick. And then we would rotate to the booth, and we'd watch all 5 of our decisions as an AR and see how we went from there. And then we would rotate to the main field, where they had an 11v11 game going on, and they would play, and then all of a sudden someone would do a handball right on the line of the box, and then we would have to communicate with the VAR and things like that. So a lot of training from that standpoint. There was a lot of classroom. We would spend an entire day on handball. We'd spend an entire day on incidents in the box, an entire day on positioning. So we would do that for an entire week, and very exhausting. It sounds as exhausting. There's no free time at all. It was, you know, we weren't going to different restaurants. It was eat together, classroom together, train together, and then right to bed, and then repeat the next morning for 5 to 7 days. Once we did that, we then had a seminar in Italy, and we got medical check. We had another fitness check. We continued to take tests, and then once we got to Russia, we got there about 10 days before the tournament and continued this same training. It was still VAR focused, make sure we no delay. It was get on the field and do 45 minutes in an actual mock game to try VAR and things like that. And one interesting fact, they actually had this they called it the FIFA referees tournament, and they hired local teams there in Russia. I shouldn't say hired, but local amateur teams signed up in Russia to play it, so we could have players going at each other. And then, you know, the USA crew would go referee one half, then the Mexico crew would referee the second half, and we'd have full VAR. We'd have 20 cameras, just like a real World Cup game. But to incentivize the players to go at it, they gave the winner of this tournament $15,000. So they really wanted the teams to go at it. So it wasn't just, oh, these teams are just, you know, we're going to give them, you know, a bunch of Adidas balls, you know, as a thank you for playing. No, they were going at it. They wanted to win this tournament because 15 grand to a local amateur club is going to go quite a long way. So you can imagine that was quite a good test leading up to the actual World Cup.
Absolutely. That's really, really unique for those local amateur clubs. Just curious, is there a link to sign up for those tournaments?
Yeah, no kidding, no kidding. For sure. Well, the next one's in. Maybe you and I can look to get 11 aside together and travel over to Qatar in October, November, and kick the ball around there for those referees.
Perfect. My best position is left bench.
Perfect.
Oh, goodness. Well, speaking of VAR, we talked with Jeff Swartzel about this in our last episode, and he came in after VAR really had already been established in the MLS. You have been a part of the MLS through that whole going from no VAR to now where we're at. What has the introduction of VAR been like for you? And maybe just, personally or ARs in general, whichever way you'd like to go with that.
Yeah, no, personally, I'll speak, give you another breaking news. I'll tell you what Joe Fletcher from Pro said at the last AR camp, but I'll start with it by saying I love VAR. It's an instant check. It's instant knowledge that we got the call right. And it kind of gives you a little pep in your step to hear that you just nailed a close offside decision. I mean, I had a super close one. If you look at the second Cincinnati goal from yesterday, it was those classic one-on-one. There's one defender that didn't push up with everybody, and he's starting to push up as this guy's going like that. And thankfully he was dead even, and Cincinnati scored a goal off it. And I'm hesitating, and I'm saying on the mic, "Oh, that's a close one, Jonathan. I'll shut up and let you do your check, but let me know." And then we get the check complete. It was like, oh yes, nailed that one. So I absolutely love VAR. It's great confirmation. It has taken some adjustment. Obviously the delay. If it's something close, we don't want to take away a good goal because we misjudge an offside, and that's the reason why we let it play out like you did, like we do. So that's something that takes a little adjustment. But one interesting thing Joe Fletcher said is that with the advent of VAR, one kind of disappointing thing is that the AR is now the third most important referee on the team. Referee number 1, VAR number 2, AR number 3. And Joe said, let's go back to the AR being the number 2 most important again. Let's totally, I referee every game so that's to obsolete VAR. And I love it when they say check complete and, knock on wood. But so far I haven't had a correct offside overturned yet in MLS or international play. And that's my goal every game, is to really just nail those calls so that VAR doesn't get involved. And I think Joe makes an excellent point, Joe Fletcher. Let's do to work the AR role back up. Let's obsolete VAR as much as we can, not get them involved on offside decisions, and let's continue to support the team and get everything right on the field that we can.
And so yesterday was actually when we're recording we're recording it on Sunday.
Yeah.
So whenever this airs, or whenever you're listening to this somewhere deep into the future, who knows? But yesterday was the first time you guys were the inaugural game with a centralized VAR, correct?
Yeah, correct.
In Atlanta. So that was John Freeman and Jonathan Johnson were your VARs and AVARs there, and they were in Atlanta, back in your homeland, right?
Correct. Yep.
So
it seemed to go well. Yeah, it seemed to go well. It is, we were worried about the delay in talking. And of course, you're talking live to someone on your headset, because you think about the other sports, NBA, baseball, they go to a bat phone to pick up the phone. It's a direct line to whoever they're talking to. We need that information in our ear. We don't have a phone we can pick up and call Atlanta to see whether we got a call right. We're talking to them live during the game. And it seemed to go well yesterday. John did a good job. He was communicating throughout, giving Tori, positive feedback during the game. And it seemed to go really well. It is a little funny though, if John is VAR for a game for, let's say, Sporting KC, in the future, he's going to have to fly to Atlanta to be VAR for a game at Sporting KC Stadium, which seems kind of backwards, but I guess that's how it is.
Very good. That's great. Well, so we got to ask.
Yes.
Power squat.
Yes.
I've heard this before. I've heard you talk about it, but for those that haven't, and we'll probably put up a picture so that everybody knows. We won't make you do this in your home office, but where did this come from and all that?
I don't know when I started doing it, but I just kind of squatted a little bit and just kind of said, okay, I'm gonna get super intense and I'm gonna get in squat position. So in my opinion, it started as a fitness thing where I could turn and explode quickly. That's the reason why it started. I'm not sure it has that benefit, but one thing, I'll go back to Jair, and sorry to mention him over and over, but I think you can substitute any referee. And one thing they love when they look over is if they see me squatting and like it's just like a little confidence for them that I'm focused. It's not the lazy shoulders dropped, the walking. If you look over and see your AR, there's no doubt that he or she is in the game. And I think you're starting to see more and more ARs kind of start to adopt a little bit of a power squat. I mean, you can't be the OG in the power squat, but some other things. I was talking to a referee who asked me about some of my mechanics. He was at the Cincinnati game last night, and I said, some of these the assessors are going to yell at you on. When I first started doing this power squat thing, I was told, oh, you lose the ability to stand tall and you can't see the field as well. And I thought, well, explain that to a 5'1" referee that they can't see the field as well. I don't think shorter referees are less qualified. So I think I can judge an offside line just as well, whether my eyes are here or here. But I said another one you'll hear from assessors is you'll see me do this a lot when the ball is right on the line and it's close. I'm like, no, it's in. Everyone looks at me and they know right away I'm looking at it and I'm involved. And that's a negative hand signal that assessors will slap you on the wrist for, but I continue to do. And the one thing he picked up on last night was that when I have a close offside decision, if I'm sidestepping and there's a player offside, I have a flag here. I got an old school flag. I'll kind of put both hands on the flag like this. So if I'm going, I'm like this. And he's like, why do you put both hands on the flag when you have someone in offside decision? I said, well, early in my career, if it was one hand, I'd be too quick to go like this. But if I have two hands on it, it's like this one can control this hand and not go too quick. They both have to make a conscious decision to go up with the flag so I'm not raising it too quickly. And he's like, I'm going to try that next game because I've been accused of having a happy flag as well. So that's another little, I guess I have a few techniques that they don't teach you in the classroom, but I've seen to have adapted into my game.
Well, I love that. And I think that's great. If you're watching this or listening to this and you are a newer referee, one of the things that we talk about with the referees when we go out and mentor at the youngest ages is one of the things that frustrates parents more than anything is the look of apathy on officials that are just there for the paycheck. And so not only reassuring the rest of your crew that you're engaged, but reassuring those around you that I'm involved. I'm here to keep your kids safe today. And all of that. I think that's huge. So that's not just something that's kind of a funny thing, but you're right. And I love that even Jair, a referee that's, that seasoned, have been around the game for so long, that provides a little bit of a oomph. I think that's such a neat perspective, Cory. I appreciate it.
Exactly. And I was kind of thinking about dropping it. And then someone asked Jair about it, like, hey, what do you think about Cory doing this squatting thing? Can you still see him when he was actually asked, can you still see him when he squats down like that? Is he kind of hidden when he does that? He's like, heck no. He's like, when I look over him, I know I don't have to worry about Cory's side because he's laser focused. He's in. And ever since he said that, I'm like, all right, well, I'm not dropping this. I'm sticking with it.
Absolutely. I'm going to stop watching MLS if you stop power squatting. So the MLS is terrified they're going to lose my viewership now. So yeah. Anyway, Ethan, we have just a couple more questions and then we'll let you go, Cory.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So you were talking about, the approved mechanics that you've seemed to alter. But in regards to that, going back to the beginning of your time, if you could talk to first year, first month, brand new Cory Rockwell referee, what kind of advice would you have for yourself now that you've learned over the years and over your experience?
Yeah, I think the one thing I kind of alluded to this earlier, but I wanted a whistle in MLS as quickly as possible. I wanted it now. Brian Hall had it when I was 20, when he was 25. Why can't I have it when I'm 25? And I can't imagine the referee I'd be today if I would have gotten into MLS in 1999 instead of 2005. I still had a lot more growing to do. There's so much with experience, and while I thought it was the end of the world that I didn't get an MLS shot or a national badge, back early in my career, it actually worked out. I wish I could have told Cory Rockwell then, hey, be patient, keep learning, keep at it, keep doing as many games as possible, get on the field as much as possible, and good things will happen from there. And I've always kept a good attitude, as many know. I've always tried to do the balance of work, family, and soccer, because if you have a work issue and you're leaving it to go referee a soccer game, you're not going to be in the right frame of mind to referee that soccer game. If you're worried about family or work in the back of your mind, you're not going to be 100% focused. So I have had to turn big assignments back, due to work or due to family. And at the time I thought it was, I'm never going to get a call again, and this is it. And I would tell the Cory then, hey, it'll all work out. It'll all be for the best. You're doing the best for your situation now, and that's all you can do. So I think those are the two bits of advice I would give a younger Cory Rockwell. And I said this in Kansas City, I'd cut my hair too, because I had hair down to here back for the first 10 years I was a referee. It was the old tuck behind the ear skater look. And maybe I would have cut it a little earlier. In fact, I think there's a picture of me from Nationals where literally the hair is like partially covering one eye as I'm pointing in my fuchsia jersey on the under 17 final. So maybe I would have gotten a little more professional haircut before going to Nationals. That'd be maybe one minor thing I would do as well.
Yeah, I think having some hair in your eyes may not help with your rapport a little bit, but
no, I don't think so. And it kept me the young look. And I get asked so many times at amateur games on Sunday, I was like, oh, is your mom here watching the game too? Thinking I'm young. I was like, well, actually she is. She's up in the stands right over there. Actually she is. Yeah.
That's too good. That's too good. So you've already, you talked about the advice you'd give yourself. Is there advice? I mean, the question I'm asking that we were asked to relay to you is, what's the best advice you've been given? So those advice for yourself, but has there been those in your life that have spoken truth into you over the years?
Yeah, I think I've kept the same mentors, and they've really kept me grounded over the decades. And really, I think good advice is, if you like something someone's doing, then try to copy it. Try to have it. Try to incorporate on a few games. Maybe if it's a state cup semifinal and you're trying some for the first time, that may not be the best time to use it, but experiment. I remember when I was on a high school game and there's a referee that had two whistles, one for subs and one for fouls. So like, that's a really good idea. You got to kind of got the soft tweet and the sharp whistle for fouls. Like, I'm gonna try that. So for my next JV game, I got my Fox 40 and my I don't even know what the other one was, the quieter whistle, and just started playing with that. How could I switch between the two whistles quite quickly in the run of play, and got used to that. Do I do one on the right hand, one on the left? How do I position them? And then even AR mechanics, just trying little things like backing off the line to open up my field of view, and little things like that. I would just see others do it and then try to incorporate it into my game. So I think that's really a big one. And I don't think some states have a mentorship program, but you don't have to wait for a formal program to pick your mentors. Find people you look up to, pick their brain, and really start to incorporate some of their best practices that you see, because it could work for you as well.
It's great. Any closing thoughts for the Check Complete podcast listeners?
Oh, any final thoughts? No, maybe I'll give. No, this has been really good. I mean, it's been a great career. I'm obviously coming towards the end of my on-field career, which is why I'm kind of a little bit of a transition into instructing. I think it's good to have an instructor and the senior director of instruction that's still refereeing. It's why Tori is so powerful to be in her position with NYSOA. Same with Lance, because they're both still in the field doing it as well. So, but I am coming toward the end of the career. Unfortunately, I don't have another 15 years left in me in MLS. I don't think, but yeah, one thing that's kept the longevity so long is that just you know, it's the ability just to stay mentally and physically sharp. And once my last game ends for college season or pro season, that I start training literally the next day for the next year's fitness test, you know, and that's really keeping at it. And mentally, I touched on this earlier, but I've turned back some big events. I turned down a 2020 a U20 World Cup, believe it or not, just because I'd work in personal priorities, and I knew I wouldn't be able to 100% give 4 to 5 weeks of my time and do it correctly. I might have lost some other opportunities, but in the long run, it was best for my career, and I eventually got to Russia for that. So even despite that, so that's really a big one. I'd say just keep the work life good, keep the family life good, keep the personal life good, and it'll translate to good things on the field. And always stay positive. And it's not just about doing the best in the top games. You never know who is watching. I'll reemphasize that piece, whether it's a U14 game or a college game or a high school game. You never know who's going to be watching you. Maybe has a connection to give you that next opportunity. So yeah, always support the team, always look good, and always treat this game like it's the most important game of the day to you and to those players.
Absolutely. Cory, thank you so much for your time. We really, really appreciate you spending a few minutes with us. And I know our listeners and viewers are grateful for it. We've had a lot of people that are excited for this interview. So it's always good to hear from you and to gain some valuable words of wisdom. So we appreciate it.